Greetings, my fellow freedom lovers and sovereign thinkers. This is L3's newest podcast. My name is Craig, and I am broadcasting along the beautiful swampy mangroves of South Florida. Today is March 18th, 2014, and today I'm going to be reading a few articles. Actually, one article and two proposals, which is estate related. However, I find it very chilling to the fact, and this was done by Michael Snyder, and I'd like to thank governmentslaves.info for sending this out via Twitter. And it's entitled, "Sexual Assaults in the Military Are at an All-Time High, and most of them are male on male." And I'm going to be narrating this and give you my viewpoint, and we'll just take it from there, okay? So let's begin. There is a raging epidemic of sexual assault in the U.S. military. A report released by the United States Department of Defense says that an astounding 12,000 women serving the U.S. military are sexually assaulted in 2012. This is a national disgrace, and any U.S. service member that rapes a woman deserves the death penalty, in my opinion. It has gotten so bad that female service member serving in Afghanistan is more likely to be raped by a male service member by the Taliban. But this is only half the story. Sexual assault against males is at an epidemic level in the U.S. military as well. In fact, according to the same report that I just mentioned, there were 14,000 sexual assaults against men serving in the U.S. military during 2012. That means that most of the sexual assaults in the military are actually male on male. The following is an excerpt from an article in the New York Times. According to the Department of Defense's military sexual assault report for 2012, estimated 26,000 members of the United States military, both men and women, were sexually assaulted in that year. The Pentagon survey almost certainly underreports the scale of the issue. Of those sexual assaults, 53%, approximately 14,000 in 2012, were attacks on men. The study also found that male service members are far less likely to report when they are attacked and when a report is made. Military authorities are far less likely to go after the perpetrator. These men, an estimated 13,000 last year alone, are far less likely than women to report an attack. Only 30% of reports last year were followed by men, military data show. But disparities do not end there. The Sun found that when men do report a sexual assault, men authorities are less likely to identify a suspect to refer changes to court-martial or discharge the perpetrator than in cases in which the victim is a woman. Fortunately, after years of denial, this issue is starting to come to the forefront. Some prominent retired officers are even speaking about this. For example, General Major Dennis J. Leitch says that the military brass should be asking for forgiveness from thousands of victims that never got justice. The chain of command should be asking for forgiveness from thousands we have failed to serve and protect over the past 25 years, former Major General Dennis G. Leitch, retired, told reporters during a press call. When an American female service member is serving in Afghanistan, has a high probability of being raped by a fellow soldier and being killed by the Taliban. I would submit that the chain of command has a problem, he continued. When we can't protect members of our own military, we have got a major problem on our hands. During 2012, more than 85,000 military veterans were formally treated for sexual abuse that they suffered while serving in the U.S. military. Even though they are less likely to come forward for treatment, 40% of those were treated were men. Things have gotten so bad at this point that even military recruiters have become known for sexually assaulting those that they are recruiting, according to the Washington Post. The Pentagon is pledging to do something about this growing problem. The Secretary has made it clear that we will spare no effort to rid our military of sexual abuse, said George Little, the Pentagon Press Secretary. The fact there have been problems of sexual abuse during the recruiting process is simply intolerable. When you get sexually assaulted, it can absolutely shatter your life. especially if you never get any justice. This is one of the reasons why suicide rate in the U.S. military is so high. Most people don't realize this, but the number of active members of the U.S. military that kill themselves each year now exceeds the number that are dying on the battlefield. And according to one absolutely shocking study, 22 military veterans kill themselves in the United States every single day. Clearly something's very wrong with the U.S. military. Most of the time, the stories of these victims of sexual assault in the military never get told. Unfortunately, a few of them are starting to get out there. For example, consider what happened to former Marine Lance Corporal Jeremiah Arbogast. His eyes low, focused on the prepared statement in front of him. Arbogast recounted the details of his own sexual assault and his equally horrifying aftermath. He was drugged to the point of incapacitation and sexually assaulted by a fellow Marine, a former staff sergeant. While on active duty, I was humiliated at the thought of my helplessness, he said. 2 months after the attack, instant nightmares, anxiety, depression, and confusion finally overpowered his fear and embarrassed, and Arbogast confronted a base social worker who reported the attack to the Naval Criminal Investigative Service, which investigates crimes involving Naval and Marine Corps personnel. This would only further his humiliation. Arbogast came to find out he said he was forced to make recorded phone calls to his rapist and even confront him at his house while wearing a wire in order to get a confession. He accomplished his mission, but his nightmare was far from over. Arbogast's attacker was arrested and hit with several charges including sexual assault and sodomy. But after only a week in court, evidence shed light on his 23 years of service. He walked away with a bad conduct discharge and no jail time. Arbogast said his rapist was ordered to NCIS headquarters for fingerprinting, only to reveal that he dulled the skin on his fingertips. And he managed to refuse to register on the sex offender database by simply saying, "No, I don't have to." You can read some more persons' testimonies of sexual assault in the U.S. military right here. There's a link to that. This has got to stop. The U.S. military is supposed to be the most highly disciplined fighting force on the planet, and there is no excuse for this. Sadly, the reality is what is going on in the military is simply a reflection of society as a whole. America has become a giant cesspool of filth and corruption, and that this is manifesting itself thousands of different ways. If it was up to me, every member of the U.S. military that raped someone would get the death penalty. But it's not up to me. Instead, political correctness has taken over the U.S. military, and we have an administration that treats military veterans like absolute garbage. So let's hope that things in the military start to get better, but I wouldn't count on it. Yeah. That's one of the most chilling things, my friend. It's like going back to like the ancient Roman times with the whole sodomy and pagan Rome, etc. is coming to light in the States. It's just an example. This is very degrading, apparent. Plus, I agree with Mr. Snyder. These bastards do deserve a death penalty. But our problem is the whole rape terminology got so whitewashed by folks. Even the women in general, too. It's not going to be chauvinistic. But it has happened. This needs to get stopped. Everything needs to get cleaned up. And Barry Soetoro, the so-called commander-in-chief, isn't going to shed any light or do anything about it. He likes to see us be degraded. He's just an example of a disgusting globalist puppet. Or other words, a bend-over Bob to the New World Order. So, what happened here? Oops. Okay. There you go. Sorry about that. But that's how I have to look at this article. I will post this from my Spreaker page as well. But Michael Snyder is very good at what he does, and we're pen pals on Facebook and Twitter. Share a lot of information on one another. And This needs to be stopped completely. This whole Sodom and Gomorrah. You gotta treat these individuals like they are garbage. They love dishing out, but they hate receiving. So I will hit the next one. Actually, there's a couple of bills that was being addressed. And I know I did discuss this yesterday about Common Core in Florida. And I have this bill here. Did the first reading, Tuesday, March 4th, 2014. It's HB 25, entitled Public School Curricular Standards and Assessment. It was done by Florida legislator Mayfield, co-sponsors Alberton, Broxton, Caldwell, Eagle, Vershagen, Huston, Pelion, Santiago, and Van Zandt. And the main idea for this is prohibit State Board of Education from continuing to implement Common Core standards until certain requirements are met. Provides requirements for adoption or revision of curricular standards. Requires states to withdraw from PARCC. Prohibits states from implementing certain assessments and requires state to adopt and implement new assessments. Prohibits state board entering into certain agreements. And it had its first reading on Tuesday, March 14th, 2014. And I will read the bill. It is 2 pages. So it says here, the bill to be entitled an act relating to public school curricular standards and assessment, prohibiting the State Board of Education from continuing to implement the Common Core standards until certain requirements are met, providing requirements for the adoption or revision of curricular standards, requiring the state to withdraw from the Partnership for Assessment of Readiness for College and Careers, prohibiting the state from implementing assessments aligned to Common Core standards by the partnership, requiring the state to adapt and implement new assessments, prohibiting the state board from entering into certain agreements, be enacted, providing an effective date, be enacted by the legislature of the state of Florida. Section 1, Public School Curricular Standards and Assessments. Subsection 1, notwithstanding in any provision of law, the State Board of Education may not continue to implement the Common Core standards in the English language, arts, and mathematics adopted by the State Board as part of the Next Generation Sunshine State Standards until the following occurs. A, the State Board holds at least one public hearing in each congressional district of each state, with at least one member of the State Board in attendance at each hearing, at which public testimony is taken on the implementation of Common Core standards in the state's public schools. B, a fiscal analysis of the projected cost of implementation of the Common Core standards is presented to the State Board. The Department of Education shall contract with an independent entity with expertise in the development, implementation, and assessment of curricular standards to conduct the fiscal analysis. 2. So notwithstanding any provision of law, the State Board of Education may not adopt or revise curricular standards in a matter that would effectively implement the Common Core standard until the requirements of subsection 1 are met. Before adapting or revising curricular standards, the State Board must compare the Common Core standards to other nationally recognized standards of student achievement. The State Board may not adopt the Common Core standards in curricular areas other than the English language, arts, and mathematics. 3. For withdrawal from the Partnership for Assessment of Readiness for College and Careers, and may not implement the assessments aligned to the Common Core standard by the partnership. Instead, the state shall adopt and implement new assessments that provide valid, reliable, and timely testing of student performance. 4. Subsection 4 to be exact. The State Board of Education may not enter into or renew an agreement that cedes to an outside entity control over curricular standards or assessments. Section 2. This act shall take effect upon becoming a law.